The needle on my fuel gauge dipped precariously into the red, mocking me with its crimson grin. A shiver ran down my spine as I surveyed the desolate stretch of highway before me. The sun, a dying ember in the western sky, cast long, skeletal shadows that writhed and danced in the twilight. On the horizon, jagged teeth of mountains clawed at the bruised clouds, promising a night colder than a witch's kiss. To my left, a lone beacon of salvation emerged from the encroaching darkness. A gas station, hope, a frail butterfly, fluttered in my chest. I pulled off the highway, the tires crunching on gravel like shattered bones. The gas station was a skeletal silhouette against the dying light, its pumps like skeletal arms reaching out to clutch at passing cars. A single flickering neon sign sputtered defiance against the encroaching gloom, proclaiming in garish red letters, "Rusty Sprocket's Gas Grub." A shiver danced down my spine, colder than the desert wind. The station was eerily silent, no clinking of pumps, no hiss of filling tires. The windows of the attached diner were boarded up, casting blind eyes on the approaching dusk. A rusty wind chime, hanging crookedly from the eaves, sang a mournful tune, each clang a hollow echo in the stillness. Hesitantly, I pushed open the creaking door of the gas station. The air inside was thick with the smell of stale oil and something else. Something metallic and faintly acrid. Cobwebs, like macabre lace curtains, draped the shelves, and dust motes danced in the single dim bulb that cast long, distorted shadows. Behind the counter, a figure slumped in a chair, shrouded in the gloom. I cleared my throat, the sound grating in the oppressive silence. The figure stirred, its head snapping up with a suddenness that made me jump. He was a man, or at least, he used to be. His face was a roadmap of wrinkles, etched deep by time and something more sinister. His eyes, two chips of obsidian, gleamed with an unsettling hunger. He wore a grease-stained coverall, the faded name tag reading, "Rusty," in crooked letters. "Welcome to Rusty Sprockets," he rasped, his voice like sandpaper on bone. "What can I do you for?" "Just filling up," I stammered, my voice barely audible above the pounding of my heart. Rusty chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "We ain't got much left in the tank, not after what happened." His words sent a jolt of unease through me. "What happened?" I croaked, my throat suddenly dry. Rusty's smile widened, revealing a glint of something metallic in his mouth. "Let's just say," he leaned forward, his voice a chilling whisper, "sometimes, the gas ain't all that's pumping through these veins." My breath hitched. A primal fear, cold and sharp, clawed at my insides. I stumbled back, my eyes darting around the dimly lit gas station, searching for escape. But there was nowhere to go. Rusty rose from his chair, his movements slow and predatory. He took a step towards me, his eyes glinting with a feverish light. I backed away, my foot catching on a discarded oil can. I fell, the metallic clang echoing in the sudden silence. Rusty loomed over me, his fetid breath washing over me like a wave of nausea. He reached out, his fingers long and skeletal, tipped with sharpened claws. I screamed, a primal cry that tore through the night. But there was no one to hear, no one to save me. In the end, I didn't feel the pain. The darkness, cold and suffocating, swallowed me whole. The last thing I saw was Rusty's face, contorted in a triumphant grin, his eyes burning with an unholy hunger. The next morning, the sun rose over the desolate highway, casting long shadows on the abandoned gas station. A lone police car, its siren wailing, shattered the silence. But it was too late. The horrors that lurked within Rusty Sprocket's gas grub would forever remain a chilling secret, a whispered legend among truckers and weary travelers, a stark reminder that sometimes, the darkest corners of the world hold secrets far more terrifying than any empty fuel tank. The gas station at the crossroads became a monument to forgotten nightmares, a grim testament to the price of a full tank on a lonely stretch of road. And as for Rusty Sprocket, Well, some say he still walks the shadows, forever searching for his next fill, his eyes gleaming with a hunger that can never be satiated. So, the next time you find yourself on a deserted highway, with your fuel gauge dipping pre. Story number 2. The rusted, skeletal outline of the gas station loomed against the bruised twilight sky, a hulking monument to forgotten dreams. My headlights carved stark white gashes through the encroaching darkness, revealing peeling paint and cracked concrete. The neon sign, once proclaiming "Rusty Spur, fill her up," sputtered erratically, casting the pumps in a ghastly, pulsating dance. Hunger gnawed at my stomach, but it was dwarfed by the primal fear slithering its way up my spine. Every instinct screamed at me to keep driving, to find somewhere, anywhere else. But the needle on my fuel gauge was pinned to empty, my engine sputtering its last protest. With a sigh that tasted of defeat, I pulled up to the only pump still offering a semblance of life. The bell above the door chimed a rusty welcome as I stepped inside. The air hung thick with the cloying sweetness of old grease and something else, something metallic and acrid. Cobwebs draped the chipped counters like macabre bunting, and empty candy wrappers skittered across the grimy floor like tumbleweeds. In the corner, a single bulb cast grotesque shadows from a dusty jukebox, its silence as deafening as a scream. A figure emerged from the back, a gaunt man with eyes like dull pits in his skull. His smile was a jagged crack in his weathered face, revealing teeth stained the color of rust. "Welcome to the Rusty Spur," he rasped, his voice like gravel grinding against bone. "What can I do you for?" "Just a fill up," I managed, my voice barely a whisper. He chuckled, a dry, mirthless sound. "Sure thing, honey. Let me just check the pump." He ambled outside, his gait oddly stilted, and I took the opportunity to flee. But my legs, leaden with fear, refused to cooperate. I was rooted to the spot, a rabbit caught in the headlights of an oncoming train. The man returned, his face hidden in the shadows of the pump's hood. "Looks like you're out of luck, sweetheart," he drawled. "Seems the pump's dry." Panic clawed at my throat. "But, the sign," he stepped closer, the darkness around him deepening. "Signs can be deceiving, darling. Especially in this neck of the woods." His hand shot out, impossibly fast, and clamped over my mouth. His touch was like ice, and a metallic tang flooded my senses. My vision blurred, my limbs turned to jelly. As I crumpled to the floor, the last thing I saw was his eyes, glowing with an unnatural, predatory light. The darkness closed in, swallowing me whole. I awoke, strapped to a cold, metal table, the smell of burning oil assaulting my nostrils. The man from the gas station stood over me, his eyes gleaming with a manic ferocity. "Don't worry, honey," he crooned, his voice dripping with false sweetness. "We're just gonna give you a little tune-up. Make you run like new." He reached for a gleaming scalpel, its edge glinting in the dim light. My scream died in my throat, choked by the rising tide of terror, but then, a sound pierced the night. A distant howl, mournful and long, echoing across the wasteland. The man froze, his gaze darting towards the darkness outside. He hesitated, then turned to me, his face contorted in rage. "Damn mongrels," he spat, throwing the scalpel down. Always ruining the fun, he grabbed a crowbar and disappeared into the night, leaving me alone in the flickering shadows. With a surge of adrenaline, I struggled against my bonds. My fingers, slick with fear and sweat, finally found purchase on the rusted metal. Inch by agonizing inch, I pried it loose, the metallic whine grating against the silence. Free at last, I stumbled to my feet, my legs shaky but determined. I sprinted towards the door, the sound of the approaching howls urging me on. Behind me, I heard the gas station explode in a fiery roar, taking the twisted soul of the man with it. I didn't look back. I just kept running, until the flames were nothing but a fading ember in the rearview mirror, and the first rays of dawn painted the sky a hopeful pink. I survived the Rusty Spur, but the memory of that night, the metallic kiss of his touch, the glint of the scalpel in his eyes, will forever haunt my dreams. It was a stark reminder that sometimes, the monsters don't lurk in the shadows. They wear smiles and run gas stations, waiting for unsuspecting travelers to stumble into their web of nightmares. So, the next time you see a lonely gas station on a deserted road. Story number 3. The rusted gas pumps stood sentinel against the inky blackness, their skeletal silhouettes casting long, hungry shadows across the cracked asphalt. Neon signs, once vibrant, flickered erratically, spelling out Sinclair's in a kaleidoscope of decay. A lone pump gurgled, spewing out gasoline like viscous tears, the scent heavy and acrid in the stagnant air. Sarah, her knuckles white on the steering wheel, pulled her sputtering car to a stop. The needle on the fuel gauge had dipped below E long ago, replaced by a taunting red light. This desolate stretch of highway, devoid of any other sign of life, was her only option. Stepping out, she was met with a chorus of crickets chirping, their melody punctuated by the rhythmic groan of the wind whistling through the skeletal remains of dead trees. The station, closer now, revealed its secrets: boarded up windows, peeling paint flaking like diseased skin, and a single, flickering light casting an eerie glow from within. Hesitantly, Sarah approached the front door. A tarnished bell, hanging crookedly above the frame, chimed a mournful note as she pushed it open. The air inside was thick with dust motes dancing in the weak light, the silence broken only by the hum of a refrigerator in the corner. Behind the counter, a figure emerged from the shadows. Tall and gaunt, with eyes like chips of obsidian glinting in the dimness. He wore a grease-stained uniform several sizes too large. A smile, devoid of warmth, stretched across his face, revealing a mouthful of crooked teeth. "Welcome to Sinclair's, miss," he rasped, his voice like sandpaper on bone. "What can I do for?" Despite the unsettling atmosphere, Sarah managed a weak smile. "Just a fill-up, please. And maybe some water." The man's smile widened, a flicker of something predatory in his eyes. "Water? We don't have water here, miss. Only gasoline." He gestured to the pump outside, its nozzle dripping a viscous black liquid. "Special blend. Keeps the engine purring." And the shadows at bay, Sarah's unease deepened. The man's words, the strange glint in his eyes, it all sent shivers down her spine. But she was trapped, miles from anywhere, her car gasping its last breaths. Just the gas. Then, she managed, her voice barely a whisper. The man chuckled, a low, guttural sound that sent chills down her spine. He moved with unnatural swiftness, filling the tank with the black fuel, his movements jerky and spastic. As he finished, he leaned closer, his breath hot and fetid on her ear. "Remember, miss," he hissed, "this gas keeps the shadows at bay. But it also feeds them. And they're always hungry." Sarah's blood ran cold. She stumbled back, her gaze darting to the boarded-up windows, the flickering light, the shadows that seemed to writhe and coil in the corners. The engine coughed to life, a hungry growl that echoed the man's words. With a final, chilling smile, the man retreated into the darkness. Sarah, her heart hammering against her ribs, scrambled into her car. The engine roared. A monstrous beast awakened, and she slammed the gas pedal to the floor. The car lurched forward, tires screaming on the cracked asphalt. Sarah didn't dare look back, but she could feel their eyes, hot and hungry, burning into her back. The black gas coursed through the veins of her car, a dark symphony of power and dread. She drove through the night, the shadows dancing in her rearview mirror, the man's words echoing in her ears. Sinclair's, a beacon of hope turned into a macabre nightmare, a testament to the horrors that lurk in the forgotten corners of the world. And she, fueled by the shadows, became a fleeting spark in the endless darkness, forever haunted by the memory of the gas station at the edge of nowhere. The story ends here, leaving the reader to ponder the fate of Sarah and the terrifying truth behind Sinclair's gas station. Was it just a creepy gas station, or something more sinister? The answer, like the shadows that danced in Sarah's rearview mirror, remains shrouded in mystery. Story number 4. The rusted, skeletal outline of the gas station loomed against the bloodshot dusk, a predator against a dying sky. My headlights speared through the cracked windshield, illuminating peeling paint and cobwebbed pumps, a monument to forgotten journeys. My needle-empty gauge and a low growl from the engine left me with no choice. With a sigh that mirrored the desert wind, I pulled in. The silence was thick, broken only by the rhythmic chirp of cicadas and the distant, mournful howl of a coyote. The station's windows were boarded shut, planks adorned with cryptic symbols, like sigils scratched by unseen claws. A single, flickering neon sign sputtered above the pumps, casting the forecourt in an oily, green glow. It read, in jagged font, "Dead End Fuel." My throat tightened. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, to floor the gas pedal and disappear into the encroaching darkness. But the engine sputtered its final cough, and I was adrift in a sea of rust and shadows. With a deep breath, I pushed open the creaking door, the hinges groaning like tortured souls. Inside, the air hung heavy with the smell of stale oil and decay. Dust motes danced in the single, dying bulb's feeble light, revealing shelves piled high with antique oil cans and grimy maps leading to nowhere. Behind the counter, a hunched figure materialized from the gloom. He was gaunt. His skin stretched taut over bone, eyes reflecting the sickly neon like pools of phosphorescent oil. His smile was a jagged crack in his face, revealing blackened teeth. "Welcome, traveler," he rasped, his voice dry as desert wind. "Dead End Fuel. What can I pump for you tonight?" A primal fear clawed at my throat. My tongue felt thick, but I managed to stammer, "Just a full tank, please." The man chuckled, a sound like gravel grinding against bone. "Full tank, you say? That'll cost you more than gasoline, friend. We deal in a different currency here." He leaned closer, his fetid breath washing over me. "A story, perhaps. Something fresh, something full of fear. Tell me a tale that'll make my dead heart beat again." My mind reeled. Stories? What did he mean? Was this some deranged gas station attendant with a macabre hobby? Or something far worse, desperate? I began to weave a tale, a tapestry of shadows and screams, of things that lurked in the corners of vision and nightmares. With each word, the air grew colder, the shadows deeper. The man listened, his eyes gleaming like oil slicks in the fading light. When I finished, my voice hoarse, there was a pregnant silence. Then, a slow clap echoed through the station. "Bravo," the man rasped, a hint of grudging respect in his voice. "You haven't lost your touch, traveler. Dead End Fuel accepts your payment." He reached under the counter and produced a dented metal canister, its surface cold and slick. "Take this," he said. "It's not gasoline, but it'll get you where you need to go. Just remember, every story has a price. And some roads, some roads lead to places you can't come back from." With that, he vanished back into the shadows, leaving me alone with the canister and the unsettling weight of my bargain. I stumbled out to my car, the canister heavy in my hand, the engine miraculously turning over with a cough and a sputter. As I drove away, the gas station receded into the rearview mirror, a skeletal silhouette against the rising moon. I glanced at the canister, my fingers itching to pry it open, to see what unholy fuel it held. But a primal fear, born of the man's chilling words, stopped me. Some stories, I realized, are best left untold. And some roads, are best left untraveled. I reached the main highway, the familiar lights of a town twinkling in the distance. As I pulled onto the asphalt ribbon, I swore I heard a faint chuckle on the wind. carried on the scent of desert dust and decay. The canister sat heavy on my passenger seat, a dark reminder of the horror I'd glimpsed at dead-end fuel. I knew, with a chilling certainty, that it wasn't just gasoline I carried. It was a piece of that desolate station, a sliver of the darkness that clung to its soul, and I wondered, with a growing dread, if I would ever truly be free of its price.